Said so. You know what, Gina? Gives me one.
Good evening, everyone. It's Monday, December 19th, 2022, a very snowy day and the last regular city council meeting of the year. First up is the pledge. Haley.
Hi, everyone. Please stand if you're able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're swamped with public tonight, it looks like. Everybody's gone on vacation or it's a snowy, nasty day or something. Anyway, first up is order of business is an appointment. And
Do we have to do consent agenda?
no, not yet.
Okay, sorry.
So according to Idaho Code Title 50, Chapter 7, which would be 50-704, a vacancy on the council shall be filled by appointment made by the mayor with the consent of council, which appointee shall serve only until the next general city election, at which such vacancy shall be filled for the balance of the original term. So legalese, that just means Ann Zabala resigned from her seat to move off to Japan, and her term expires in January 2024. So this appointment will last only until that time. The next municipal election in Moscow is November of 2023, and the person elected in that election will be sworn in to the council for a 4-year term in January of 2024. My appointee was selected without consideration of ideological or demographic constraints or check boxes that needed to be checked. The appointee was selected for the ability to fulfill and promote the intent of the city's mission statement, which is over there on the wall, especially with regards to the first sentence that says, "The city of Moscow delivers quality municipal services while ensuring responsible use of resources." And I think this appointee fulfills that section of Moscow's vision statement very well. So my appointment, who I've selected, is Andrew Drew Davis, who's been in Moscow for 10 years, has served for 2 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and was appointed by Bill Lambert, my predecessor as mayor. He's an architect here in Moscow and has also worked with the Urban Renewal Agency on the 6th and Jackson Street property since the days of George and Carly, and subsequently worked with Rusty Olps on the same site. He has experience in the nature and the process of city government, and I would invite Drew up to say a few words on his behalf in sort of a micro introduction of himself.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. As Art said, Andrew Davis, but you can just call me Drew. That's what I only go by that if I'm in trouble by my mother. But as Art said, I've been in Moscow since 2012. Here, originally moved up here to continue my education at the University of Idaho, where I received a bachelor's and master's degree in architecture. A year of that time, though, I was spent studying in Finland for my master's, where I studied Scandinavian urban planning, development, and architectural design. During graduation, I worked with Andy Kleschke with the CRN, the Center for Resilient Communities, which was the Infuse project where we studied water, energy, and food resources of the upper Snake River Basin, geographically, Twin Falls area, to kind of put us in that spot. My role in that project was to engage stakeholders. Originally, I kind of grew up in that area. And so a lot of the staff, and if you're not familiar with that area, it's a geographical wonder how water works through there. And as Idaho has seen rapid expansion, particularly the last couple of years, but even before this, especially as different plants and food processing facilities move into the area, water mitigation is incredibly important and resources for agriculture and farming. So it was eye-opening. I studied it with him from the perspective of infrastructure. Having to do with background in architecture was helpful for his team. Since graduating, I worked a few years at Schweitzer Engineering in the property management group, working on regional and national projects here. Also, in 2019, I took a job with KNIT. That's with a K, Designing Communities. I have to clarify, yes, like knitting, but KNIT, where we're focused primarily here in the Western states. It's an architectural firm and planning areas of impact that we kind of look towards. Kind of our pun is education, living, places where we learn and where we play as well. And so you might have seen our store frontage on Main Street. I apologize if you've walked in for yarn. We do have yarn if you want, but it does have our tagline. We were breaking too many people's hearts. So we decided to give some yarn as a part of that. But yeah, we are an architectural firm here in Moscow. Other offices that we have are in Nevada, Utah, and also the west side of Washington. My primary role is I'm a senior project specialist. Just one correction, Mr. Mayor, I'm not yet a licensed architect. I'm a couple tests away from that process.
They don't make it easy.
Yeah, they don't make it easy, and they don't like it when I claim I'm an architect either. So just, I know this is public record, so I want to be, as this goes up, I want to be very sure that that's not mistaken in that process. But here shortly, I hope to be an architect, have those credentials. But my role, as I said, is a senior project specialist. What I focus on for our firm is, in particular, the live aspect of our firm. So most of the projects I'm currently working on are in the west side, the Seattle region of Washington. If you're familiar with Tacoma, you probably know the Tacoma Dome. That area is under needing significant urban impact. And so the city has put out a lot of initiatives. One that our firm is working on are 2 7-story buildings of workforce housing for the area. The worry with most growing areas that I find, at least in the Pacific Northwest, is for workforces, where they live, the people that keep the communities vibrant. So these units will play a part of that. Another project I'm currently working on in the Capitol Hill district of Seattle is a 95 unit apartment building in a historic district. However, like most things that we've seen, the people usually are the fabric of these areas, and with them being pushed out, this is another resource to keep people that have been there for longer than some of these newer areas come into play. With my role at NIT, I've talked with lots of municipal governments, especially planning and zoning, kind of across the Pacific Northwest. And so kind of understanding those roles I've become more adept to over the last years. And then in addition to that, as the mayor's mentioned, last 2 years I've been on planning and zoning, which I've enjoyed a lot here in Moscow. Also, the last 2 years, I've been the section chair for the Idaho AIA, American Institute of Architects. And also in 2019, I took an adjunct faculty seat at the College of Art and Architecture, focusing on workforce housing, architectural development, and design communication processes. That try to make it as brief as possible, and hopefully it's not that boring. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. If you have any questions, I'm definitely happy to answer anything if needed.
This is kind of a rapid job interview type of thing, and so I open it up to the council with any questions or need for elaboration on anything. Go ahead. You look in starting blocks.
Sure, I've got a question. Hi, nice to see you again. I guess from a discipline perspective, it's interesting hearing. So I've got family on the west side, and hearing the conversations around like concerns about gentrification and stuff. And so I'm curious from your perspective and what the projects you've been working on both in Tacoma, and it feels like Tacoma is kind of a different flavor right now than what we're seeing like on Cap Hill and stuff. Yep. I don't know if that's true or not, but from like a communications perspective, I mean, what have been the biggest lessons for you when you're talking about things like the project itself is great. And like you're going to bid for a project that someone else is designing the idea around, but communicating with community members who are concerned about their landscape changing, their backyards changing. I mean, how do you, I'm really liking the whole, knit does give you a great opportunity for a number of puns, but like, how do you weave together all of the stakeholders and I mean, what do you do when someone's really irked that their backyard's about to change, even if it is going to be workforce housing?
Right. Yeah. No one, the one thing I found, no one likes change.
Yeah.
Right? And the one thing is, but also a lot of people don't like the homelessness problem that we're seeing, especially in the Pacific Northwest. And so working with the city on a lot of these things, it's a transportation zone.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so walkability is critical. And that also is critical to the design of like the buildings and the infrastructure in general. And so having people be able to walk to work is really big, because we also can't, if we're going to be developing, having massive parking garages also really isn't acceptable, in my opinion. And so the city is committed to light rail systems and different biking paths. And so providing, what I found is, at least with, I would say concerned citizens about things changing, is as long as the design is living up to what is being proposed, we're not going to make everybody happy, but we found that mitigates a lot of issues.
Cool. Thanks.
I have two questions. One, were you Steve's, he was on the URA, were you his student?
I was.
And he speaks very highly of you.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
there
Yeah,
go.
Steve was great. Yeah, I did a
I'm sorry, Steve who?
Drown.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did. I did a couple projects with Steve and learned a lot from him. So
Okay, so the question I have is, it sounds like you work a lot on the east side, the west side. Do you have many projects here in the Moscow area, the Palouse area?
yeah, so I worked for a designer through undergrad and graduate school, OTS Design Services. John Paul here. He does a lot of residential work in the area. Probably from civic or large business perspective. I'm sure we're all aware of the NRS building here in town. And so I was a designer on that project. So it was a 3-person team. And so one, to me, that was kind of, although it was one of my first projects I've worked on, Pinnacle, I grew up whitewater rafting. And so growing up, I was wearing a lot of that gear. And so it was kind of paying homage to something that was pretty important. So, and I liked how it turned out too, aesthetically. So
Do you do many residential projects over here?
I don't anymore. Kind of my roles really with knit kind of taking me away from, even though I really like doing it, I'll do a shop plan for a friend, occasionally, or take something on, but really with coming on planning and zoning and teaching at the University of Idaho, that bucket has kind of been filled in other directions, which I'm, for the time being, pretty satisfied with.
It's just more an issue of how much work do you do here because of potential conflicts of interest, because we have so much development going on here in Moscow. And that was really what I was talking
long
about.
term, to be completely honest, a lot of reasons why we decided to open office here is we do a lot of university work, and there's universities, an hour and a half away. I can reach at least 5 of them, right? And so working towards that in the future is something that is on our mind pretty consistently.
So more commercial, staying in the commercial front versus in the residential front?
Yeah. In the future, though, if that special project comes around and it, kind of checks all the boxes for me, maybe doing a residential project, probably wouldn't say no to that. But I think it's important to be transparent on these issues, especially in this position, and, making sure with, city attorney and other things that we're not, hiding anything underneath the table.
Can I ask one more?
Sure.
So one more. Why would you want to do this for a year?
That's a really good question. I'm passionate. What I found, I'll say, in planning and zoning, right, is I'm pretty passionate about things that happen in the city that I live in, right? That's one of the reasons I got on planning and zoning is I find a lot of people, which is no surprise to many of you, a lot of people like to complain about issues in their city,
Really?
but do nothing about it. And I'm not saying that as a general case, but I didn't want to. I wanted to be the cause or the force that can maybe reconcile some of these pain points. And so, and city government is something that's always interested me. I think the perspective of design and architecture plays into that in a different role. And so interested in seeing what a year takes and how I like it and what we'll see coming in the upcoming election. So.
Can I ask a question? So kind of building on that, you can't make everybody happy
Yeah.
thing. Talk to me about your decision-making process and how you're going to expand what you do daily into, and I mean decision-making in general, how you apply that then to the 28,000 people or 30 some odd thousand people that live here. I mean, it becomes that level of a decision at some point.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit, please.
I think going to a lot of meetings, working with a lot of people, the biggest thing is people want to be heard. And although not everyone might not be happy with the decision, I think making sure people are heard and communicating a decision that's effective is, I haven't found any better approach, at least. And being clear about that is, it's unfortunate that not everyone will be happy with the decision, but I think as long as you're communicating effectively the why behind the decision, it might resolve pain points. They might not agree on it, but I think it resolves the confusion of why things happen in the city. And again, if people don't like decision, I think it's really important to come to meetings like this to voice opinion, even frustration, to kind of get that out.
Indeed.
Sandra, Julia? Sure. Go.
Drew, a couple different questions here. One, you're saying you work on the west side a lot. Are you there physically a lot? How does that time frame look for you with being here and away?
Yeah. So COVID's changed a lot of things
Sure.
for a lot of different people. And so before that, it's pretty typical. I'd be there, maybe every 6 weeks, typically for a couple of days. Now with an office here in Moscow, I find myself traveling every quarter to kind of maybe the different office locations. A lot of the work the way that our company is kind of adapted to this is you can work for wherever now, right? And we're not the only ones that have pioneered that. There's other people before us. But, if I have a project under construction, it's pretty easy to get over there for a day or two if needed, but also to come back.
Sure.
But yeah, so I don't have a home over on that side, thank goodness, because
Yeah.
probably couldn't afford it. But,
No kidding.
but a lot of other reasons is, I just usually, quick trips if needed, mostly there to socialize with office members and go visit a
No, for sure.
project. That's the one thing that we found with COVID is office culture is incredibly important. And so I might see them on Zoom or Teams every day, but in person's a different story.
Yeah.
So.
And to kind of, it's okay if I keep
Sure.
and to flow on with that, I know that you have planning and zoning experience, and I didn't notice that you had any other commission experiences. Is that true? City commission experiences?
Yeah, actually sitting on a commission itself.
Okay,
I don't have any
Yeah.
other experience besides working with other kind of commissions.
sure.
So.
And the only reason I asked that is, in addition to just our Monday evenings, I'm sure Art talked to you, that we have a lot of other commission duties and
Mhm.
other meetings that we attend to and other community activities. And so, I'm probably the last person to ask this, right? But how do you look at keeping all that together?
No, that's really good, and I think it's a great question to ask, right? I depending on what those commissions are, I've looked at my schedule going into this with teaching responsibilities, with work responsibilities, and family responsibilities, and there'll be a little bit of a sacrifice made, and it'll probably either be taken out of my mountain biking or skiing time, right? But I find it important enough just to kind of take that on to, I think some of the issues that we're get to deal with in Moscow are important. I like Moscow. And so, and right now there's a lot of snow on the ground. So it's better to have a meeting anyway. So
Versus skiing?
skiing, yeah. Skiing's usually Saturdays. So
I've got one more. So, and this is, I guess, more of a process question. So did Art approach you about the opening, or did you express interest
That's
to
correct.
Mike Ray or some? Okay.
yeah. Yep, I was approached by Mr. Mayor.
Had you ever thought about doing something like this before?
Yeah, like, going into planning and zoning was kind of getting, my feet wet to a degree. It's always, if you will, been like a long-term goal. It's been accelerated significantly, but I don't like saying no to good opportunities. So I think they usually take you to good places.
Okay,
I do have a question, Art.
sure.
So you're replacing Ann Zabala, a very progressive young female council member that was elected. How do you feel about filling that role?
In the terms of,
How do you feel about Ann Zabala being elected and then you coming in to fill that role? Do you think that that's appropriate?
I do. I don't know Anne on a personal level. I know that she's well received by other circles that I've been in, right? And so for me to take that role, I recognize that the community at large hasn't voted me into this. And so I understand that there's a great deal kind of responsibility. And so I'm anxious for the opportunity to learn from other leaders kind of in this position. And by no means, I don't see this as something to take over, but to learn and to contribute to.
Okay, council, we need a decision time, a motion, a second, and a vote.
I've got a couple of thoughts, but it's not Drew related, it's process related. And so I don't know what the right.
Do you want me to plug my ears? I'm just
No, no,
kidding.
yeah.
Just kidding.
No, you're good. It's process driven. My comments are process driven, not Drew driven, because I've been able to visit with Drew a number of times through planning and zoning as the liaison. And then we had a good conversation at Joel's 40th celebration for his 40 years on planning and zoning. And so my concerns aren't with Drew and the resume. My concern is in any other vacancy, elected seat vacancy, a county commission seat, a state office seat, there is direct community input and usually 3 finalists that are going to be selected from, like, if it's a party vacancy, it's going to be from the party the county party that would then put those nominations forward, and the governor then gets to see what 3 their vacancies are being, 3 people are being proposed. And ultimately, yes, the governor gets a say in who it is. And I understand that this structure looks a little bit different because the mayor gets to bring someone and the council gets to give our input and we get to validate if we so desire. I'm having a hard time because I also just watched Pullman go through this with their vacancy, and they had an open posting to a community call at large for the vacancy to serve out the rest of Dan's seat. And granted, Dan was more than a 1-year term, Dan Records. And in addition, there was an interview process with all of council, and the council was able to give input and then a recommendation on which candidate they would like to see move forward. My concerns are similar to maybe what Julia was alluding to, which is that we had a really strong progressive candidate that the council had elected, and community had reelected. And I am having a hard time reconciling feelings that while the mayor is able to bring forward a recommendation, the community had voted someone in who represents potentially a different set of priorities. So these are
Allow me to step in and
Sure.
respond to that. The community also elected the mayor and trusted the mayor to carry out the will of the people. And I would also point back to the Idaho Code.
I have it up as well. Yep.
A vacancy on the council shall be filled by appointment made by the mayor with the consent of the council, ... There is nothing that necessarily involves community input, vetting of other candidates. It says the mayor will appoint, and the mayor has appointed.
That's clear. Yes. And so what I'm trying to make a case that I'm not super happy with the process and the robustness of the process. And it may not, the statute, this chapter, Title 50, Chapter 7 Council, 50-704 is a single sentence long. And I understand that. I'm saying from like any other perspective where you're filling a vacancy.
But we aren't in any other perspective or vacancy. We're in this one right here. With
What
the
I'm
code.
asking for is a collaborative leader, and I'm not getting it right now. And
There's
so I
nothing in-
wanted to, that's why I'm sharing that this is a process conversation for me. It's not about Drew. So
That's
this is my
fine.
one opportunity to share this, and I'm sharing my thoughts, and I will let my other counselors deliberate before I make any motion.
Well, we are somewhat pinned in by the Idaho State Code. And
But the code
I'm-
does not prohibit us from having a different kind of conversation.
No, it
about
doesn't.
this.
But the city also elected me to be the mayor, to take the responsibilities of the mayor and to exercise those responsibilities, and I've done so.
Yes, sir. Understood.
So,
I have to agree with Haley that it could have been done differently. And I'm sorry that you're in the middle of it, because it is one sentence, but it doesn't say you can't collaborate. It doesn't say you can't communicate.
I chose not to.
I know you did.
Yeah,
I
that's-
think that's what we're saying, that we have a problem with the process, Mayor. And so we're just putting it on the record.
Okay, that's fine. So, motion, please. No motion? You realize that no motion is essentially a no decision, which is the same as a negative decision, which turns it around and puts it back to the mayor to make another appointment. And having gone, yeah,
Could we table this until our next meeting so we have
No.
a chance to deliberate?
nope, we're here to do it tonight.
I disagree with that, but okay.
We're here to do it tonight. This is the process. This is what's going on. Everything is in accordance with the state law. Everything is in accordance with the way things should be. And here we are. A no motion is the same as a negative result. And that sends me back to looking through potential people throughout the city, which I will do in accordance with the code and come up with another nominee that may or may not suit even better.
I have something to say, please. I am kind of caught in the middle here. It feels a little bit like a battlefield right now. And I cannot help but feel very compassionate towards and almost protective of this individual who has absolutely no reason to be getting shot down like he is. And I don't, what I mean is that we could be in our frustration with the process, be negatively affecting his next steps that he takes in his life, in his civic life. And I find that unfair. And I know I don't like it. I tried a couple times to get Art to talk about my 5 suggestions, and he has a mind of his own. He's the king. He's the king.
Did you say king?
I did. He is the mayor, so he gets to do this. So in my mind, I will make a motion to approve our appointee to replace Ann Zabala. Do I need to say his name? I mean, is there any other thing I need to do to get this?
No, they just moved to
I move to approve the
confirm the
appointment.
mayor's appointment to fill the empty council seat.
And by the way, I did think long and hard about the names that were submitted by everyone else. And I will say too, that Ann submitted no names for replacement.
That's
That's
interesting
not
because that's not what I heard. So
She didn't send me anything.
Okay, I'm going to second your motion, and I agree with you, Gina, because it's not Drew's fault. So I think we should vote on him. But I continue to have issues with the communication in the process. But that is not Drew's fault, and I think he's got good experience and has passion for the community and
Seems to make solid decisions.
Okay,
got a cute
motion.
kid.
Got a cute sleeping kid.
So motion and a second.
And can I add one more comment? There were 2 things that I starred and highlighted because I know Drew's a good leader and a good collaborator, because he said people want to be heard and want to know the why behind decisions. And I really appreciate it. And I wrote it down because I didn't feel that in this process. I'm in the same boat. This is my one avenue to be on public record, being able to share my frustrations. You got caught in the crosshairs. It's not fair to you. This is civil discourse. Glad you're here, bud. It'll be okay. Let's take the vote.
Okay. Now voting for Drew to replace Ann Zabala on council. Haley,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Okay. Excellent. Good. Thank you all very much for that. Okay,
Thank
moving
you.
on.
And I appreciate, sorry to cut you off, Mr. Mayor, but I appreciate, and I know that this is, some might see a risk and not knowing, so I kind of appreciate the faith
There are
of.
rewards associated with
Yeah.
risk. Don't worry.
Might I say one thing?
Sure.
Well,
Drew,
if you
I-
thought this was bad, wait till you have to run for election.
Yeah.
Drew, I hope you don't take any of this as the
No.
council negativity. We are very frustrated, as you can tell, with the process and how things have gone down. But I think you will be a good spot on this bench. We look forward to working with you
We're also
in just a few couple of minutes. So
All right, thank you.
Doesn't mean he gets sworn in, he gets to move up here?
Right. And so also, I will point out, these occasions happen very rarely. I think, who was the last one? It was Gina. You were
was
the
me.
last one.
Actually,
that
was
was
They
it
did
Ann
not
Zabala?
drill me
No,
like we
she
drilled you.
got, she was elected
It's
to a
okay.
2-year seat to
Easier.
fill for John Weber.
Oh.
I stepped in for, yeah.
So anyway, this
I
does
wasn't
not happen
one thing
often.
like John Weber.
I hope no one else has any hankerings to resign on us either.
At least during the rest of your
So-
tenure,
Okay,
buddy.
let's not. talk about that
Okay.
anymore.
Next up is the oath of office.
you have to know how disappointed our clerk is to not do this. This is her favorite thing.
It
in the
is her
whole world.
favorite thing.
So. Okay. I'll put you on this side so you can.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah. So that way. Okay. Raise your right hand, please. And repeat after me. I, Andrew Davis.
I, Andrew Davis,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
and the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of council member in the city of Moscow
and will faithfully discharge the duties of council members in the city of Moscow,
Utah County, Idaho,
Utah County, Idaho,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. One more thing to make it truly official.
He needs the process. That's the coolest part. Signing. It's cool.
I know.
That one.
Well, and yeah, I had the giggle when it was like, I state your name. And I was worried I would say, state your name.
Okay.
You should come this way.
At the next meeting, you'll even have a name plate.
Welcome aboard.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Do you have one?
Oh, yeah, well, this is the planning and zoning
you.
plaque.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Next up is the long-awaited consent agenda.
I think we should approve the consent agenda.
I'll
Second.
second that, or third.
Sandra and Gina on that one. Haley,
I
Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Drew.
Cool. You did it well.
Good
I don't
first
think you
vote.
He doesn't get to vote because he wasn't here. Sorry.
No, you can still vote on
He read
consent
the
agenda.
minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
is that real?
Yeah, you can still vote on that one.
All right.
Okay, on to the regular agenda. Mayor's appointments, I don't have any left. Public comment and mayor's response period. And for 15 minutes, 3 minutes intervals, come up and tell us what's on your mind, as long as it's not on tonight's agenda, of which there's not much left, or before planning and zoning, or before the Board of Adjustment. Just come up and introduce yourself and go for it.
Mayor Becky and members of the council. My name is Kathy Dawes. I live at 1018 East E Street in Moscow. Last Wednesday, I attended an excellent League of Women Voters forum featuring 3 very knowledgeable speakers on the need for affordable housing. Their presentations made quite an impact on me, inspiring me to be here tonight. The meeting was recorded, so I encourage you to watch it when the link becomes available on the League's website. I was surprised that on the timeline of the planning and zoning process to approve housing developments, the approval of the RCS, Relevant Criteria and Standards form that's completed and submitted by contractors happens quite late in the process, which I feel is a real concern. I also feel that the current RCS form is quite inadequate as far as requesting that the developer describe all the ways that the project fits with the city's comprehensive plan. Of the 5 questions on the one-page form, there's only one question with 5 short lines available to describe how the proposal actually addresses that plan. I've attended P&Z meetings where the process has reached the point of approval, but by then residents, finally fully informed about the project, it does take time, bring up their concerns about water resources, energy efficiency, affordability, et cetera, as stated in the comprehensive plan. However, by that time, it's too late for any significant changes to be made in the plans, it seems anyway to me. The idea that developers should be involved much earlier in the process was brought up by someone at the end of the meeting. And I know that developers need to design developments that will yield a sizable profit, and that doing things differently than they've done in the past is challenging. However, according to Title IV of the Moscow Zoning Code, Section 7-1, Planned Unit Development, the purpose of the planned unit development option, which is often used in Moscow, is, quote, to promote efficient, innovative, economical, attractive, environmentally sensitive, and mixed-use development. With the city's comprehensive plan and the newly developed climate action plan, it seems like a great time for the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Affordable Housing Commission to have a joint meeting maybe with potential developers in order to brainstorm ways to serve the city's needs, especially the need for affordable housing. This would be my first request. Also, in Section 7-8, the reasoned statement in writing approval or denial of planned unit development, it states that permit application shall be in writing and shall be accompanied by a reasoned statement of relevant criteria and standards adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission or the council. So I would like to encourage the council to become more actively involved in adopting a revised version of that form before the next round of housing developments get proposed, if that's at all possible. Thank you so much for considering these 2 requests.
Thank you, Kathy.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Kathy, where do we find this link if we wanted to see it?
Well, if you, I just Google League of Women Voters of Moscow, and it's not up yet. The link isn't there, but when it is, I could just send it to all the council members.
That'd be cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
that's easy enough to do. It was an excellent presentation.
Thank you, Kathy.
Glad that it spurred interest in you.
Pardon me?
Glad it spurred interest in you to come talk to us.
Well, you know, I don't know a lot about the planning and zoning process, but I just saw those 2 things as something that if it hasn't been done before, maybe it's time to do it now.
Well, I think that we probably have an opening now in planning and zoning.
Hey, get rid of that guy.
Thank you.
Kathy,
you.
may I ask one question? Who was the presenter?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that, so I actually copied it down. Bob Tribblehorn of the St. Jude's Hospital, Nils Peterson of the
Housing Trust.
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
and Cody Riddle from the city. And it was his presentation actually at the very end when I saw the chart of how this process happens is when I started getting my ideas. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mrs. Dawes.
Any other public? Okay. Next up, we have David Schott with consideration of in-house custodial services proposal.
Mayor Betke, members of council, thank you for having me tonight. So tonight, I'm going to walk through our facility analysis to provide in-house custodial services for the police station, the Hamilton the Hamilton Indoor Recreation Center, and the Egan Youth Center. And then just in the holiday spirit, as this project's evolved, we've had some developments today. And so I've got a little twist at the end for everybody.
Good.
So
We like twists.
Suspense.
just on our analysis, I provided a memo in your council packet that goes into a lot more detail, but based on the bids received November 16th of 2022 for custodial services for the police station, the HERC, and the Egan Youth Center, staff was driven to explore providing custodial services in-house for these buildings. We anticipated approximately 60 to 70 hours a week to service these three buildings. And then in our proposal, we were proposing one full-time lead janitor position at grade 4, and then 2 part-time employees up to 19 hours per week. So the anticipated cost from March 1st, by the time we could employ this, till September 30th to finish out this fiscal year is just over $56,000. This represented a cost savings of $116,500 when compared to the November 16th bid of $172,728 and some change. When we move out to fiscal year 24, we forecast a cost at $130,859. This does include some peripheral costs, the purchase of a vehicle being one of the larger ones. This represented a cost savings of around $110,000, given the bid amount of $241,000 and some change. When we move out to fiscal year 25, I got the wrong phrase in there. So when we move out to fiscal year 25, we did see some more cost savings as well. I could pull that up. My apologies. I've proofread that 100 times.
Again, I think you were noting you're going to purchase a vehicle in 24. So after that purchase in 25, you would have additional savings because you wouldn't have that vehicle purchase.
Right. Correct. Thank you. So, yeah, reduced to $104,000. I do have it right there. Thank you, Bill. $480. So we do see a reduced cost in fiscal year 25 because we had purchased that vehicle in fiscal year 24. So, given the bid amount of $253,326,000, that would be a cost savings of almost $149,000. The total fiscal impact in our current fiscal year 2023 would be $45,795, which we would need to address through the open budget process at the end of the year. And so now, however, there's a twist. As I said, as this is involved, I reached out to the bidder early last week. Some sicknesses in her family and stuff. We weren't able to meet till this morning to talk about her bid. So I had a discussion with the prior bid, and they indicated some miscalculations in their bid, primarily on the flooring, the waxing, the stripping, the polishing, all that good stuff. So just today, I met with her this morning, and they indicated they could provide custodial service at the police station, the HERC, and the Egan Youth Center for significantly less than their November 16th bid. And so talking with her, it sounds like her preliminary numbers are in line with what we paid for with custodial services in the past. Last time we actually had a contractor in those buildings. It's a little bit more, but it is in line with it. So for example, our last September, we were paying $2,243.53 a month. She'll likely come in at $2,355 per month. And so our staff recommendation has changed. This is significantly cheaper than the in-house option. And so she's kind of starting off. It's an existing business, GG Gutters, but they want to move over into the custodial services and kind of get away from that. And so she doesn't have a lot of experience with big commercial buildings. Got some smaller projects. She's got experience. So we would like to enter into a 3-month trial through a letter of agreement with Creative Cleaning Connections and evaluate their performance over the next 3 months. After that 3 months, it'll give the city 2 directions to go. One would be to rebid it if we're happy with the services, dollar amounts with a longer term contract. That would be a formal bid we'd have to put out. Or at that point, we could make a decision to move those services in-house now that we know where that tipping point is. And so that'll be our fork in the road 3 months down the road. But given the significant cost savings we're anticipating, our staff recommendation is to move in this direction. So with that, I revised a proposed action for your consideration as well. I'd take any questions that the council has.
Maureen?
So one of the difficulties we've had in the past is whether or not the person who got the bid, whether they could get the staffing for it. And are we pretty sure that this person could in fact get the staffing to make this happen? Staffing and equipment and everything else.
I asked that question this morning directly,
You
and
did?
yes, she's confident she can staff it. I think she'll be doing a lot of the work herself, but she was confident she can staff it.
Thank you. Also, I think it's a good thing that we didn't put this on the consent agenda when it was on the Public Works
Good
Committee,
point.
because at this point we get to look at it again and news came out.
Just a point of clarification, what you saw at Public Works Finance was still on the consent agenda, and that was to reject these current bids from Moscow or
Yeah.
Cleaning Connections,
Yeah,
right? And accept the ones for the enterprise buildings. And then this proposal was to bring it in-house, and then we've kind of revised that to make a staff recommendation.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
If I might just clarify one thing. So we will not enter into a 3-month agreement. We will do this month to month. Our goal is to give a 3-month trial period, see how they perform, but we won't obligate ourselves for that duration should they not perform. So we'll do it like we've done as we had to find temporary janitorial services. We'll have a month-to-month services agreement with a month-to-month cost. Our intent to give 3 months to give them a try to see how they perform, the quality of services, and then we'd make a decision at that point in time, whether we would rebid it and give them the opportunity to bid again, or if it's not performing well, then the in-house would be our fallback position.
I have a couple
So-
questions. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, my just I think
Sandra,
this is
then-
clarified, but just to make sure. So do we have to go back to change anything on the consent agenda? Was one question.
No.
Okay. And then,
Because that was for essentially a 2.5-year contract. The remaining was a long-term contract.
Okay.
We rejected that bid. We will then hire them just on a month-to-month basis for the services of these 3 buildings to see how they work at the revised rate they've now provided us. If it looks like they're successful, then we will still have to rebid it because the value of the contract will exceed what we need. It will exceed $50,000. We have to competitively bid it. So we can't just award the contract to them. They would have to bid again at the rate that they've now revised their numbers to at that point in time. But the 3 months really is just to give us comfort of their ability to staff and perform before we enter into that longer term agreement.
great. That answered my second question. Thank you.
Group.
This might be a new green person question, so I apologize if it's redundant. What are the metrics that we typically measure some of these out of source people coming in that we'll be looking at the next 3 months to know how to measure them against, if it's substantial, for the quality of work that they're performing?
Counselor Davis, that's a good question. So with all our custodial services in our longer contract, we have specifications in there. This being 3 months, it'd be full janitorial services package. We'd measure them up against those specifications.
Okay.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Just I'm
Maureen again, then.
Sure, that's fine.
I'm curious, does all janitorial services for the city's businesses all come under your jurisdiction?
Counselor Laughlin, correct. I think we have 13 city buildings.
Yeah.
3 of them don't have service. Well, temporary services in the police station right now. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So thank you. That's a lot of work.
Gina.
First of all, I think your verbiage of staff was driven was exactly right. We've seen you in this exact topic, I don't know how many times in the last month. I appreciate the work that you did and the analysis of, how we got here, what we can do to make things work, what the impact will be and that kind of thing. I also appreciate the heart that you are exhibiting by giving this small business a chance
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
giving her another moment. So
Cool.
I hope we don't see you between now and then for any other reason than the tree commission or something cool like that. But I think this is a good series of decisions. And I support the idea that staff is putting forward of let's try it, give her a 3-month window and see what we can do.
I second that. It sounds like a
Yeah,
motion.
that sounds
That
like
is,
a
that could be a
motion
motion. That sounds like a great idea.
to accept staff's proposed resolution, seconded by Maureen.
Excellent.
Okay, Haley,
Aye.
Gina,
Sure. Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Okay, that one passes. Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you and happy holidays, everybody.
Thank
You too.
Holiday twist.
Okay, this is
Was a
the
good
end
twist.
of our regular agenda. Reports.
I'm trying to pull my phone up because I have
Oh.
cold fog head and I can't remember without looking at my calendar.
We'll go to Maureen
Oh, no,
first.
no, go to somebody else because I can't think,
I
I don't know if
can
anybody went.
Julia,
Cold fog head.
All my meetings got canceled, except I did go to meet with Cody for affordable housing, just to talk about it, and with Nils Peterson about affordable housing. But other, my commissions, well, nobody wants to meet in December.
no kidding. Gina,
I had no meetings either. I did, however, get to support a small business called the Beekeepers Honey. Pam Brunsfeld on the Tree Commission has her own hives, and they make some amazing honey. And so I got to meet her by the dark of night in the snow and pick up some Christmas gifts for everybody. And that was my moment of being close to the Tree Commission. I had to say it.
It wouldn't be a meeting without.
It would
that.
not be a meeting without me saying something about the Tree Commission.
Haley,
I had a farmers market commission meeting on the 6th, and there is conversation about, Amanda's already hard at work working on handbook updates, which I am just now remembering I haven't brought her my binder so she can update everything in there. And I think that's the only meeting I had.
cool. How you going,
I'm
Sandra?
good. I'm ready now.
God, I
Okay.
can't see that.
Well, it's because I don't have my right glasses. It's a weird day for me all. I'm sorry. All right. So that really the only thing I have to report on, it turns out it's not exactly council stuff, but I'm going to say it anyway. Alternative Gimme Market was great. I don't have the final numbers, but we're up around $50,000 again. And our big event saw lots of folks out there. It was really nice to get the support for our local nonprofits. So thanks all. Saw a lot of you out there. I'll see a lot of your names come across in the online work. So it's nice to see all that support. Thanks.
A lot of my commission meetings were also canceled, but we did have Art Walk on December 15th, and there were a lot of people out there. It was really fun to see that. And I think they raffled off one of the T-shirts. It said Art Walk. And if you're a liaison, you actually get one of those T-shirts. So it's a reason to be on their commission. It was great. And the light up this season was fabulous.
That was a good parade. Let's see, Drew doesn't have anything, I'm sure.
Planning a zone, maybe.
Yeah, flood planning and zoning do.
I canceled that one.
For me, let's see, on the 7th, the fire department had their life-saving awards with the fire department and EMS folks, and they had 3 successful CPR saves on people, and one fire where they brought out an unconscious person from a smoke-filled apartment. So good on the fire department, the EMS guys for the good work that they did there. We did have the light up the season parade, which was great. Always a fun time. The city's float, scandalous as ever, but very fun. On the 15th, had the airport board meeting. The Boise flight is up to 76% on average. The Seattle flight is 78. So things are looking good for load factor there. The new terminal continues to move along. They've got a lot of the concrete poured with heavy blankets all over them and propane running to keep the thing warm enough to set. On the 16th, Russell School was right down here at the South Entrance singing carols, and that was entertainment. They brought, I don't know, they must have had 80 kids down there. It was really quite amazing. So thank you, Russell School. And also the employee gathering happened out at the Hurt with the annual fiesta that we had out there. It was good to see all of the employees out in one place, enjoying themselves and doing a little team building along the way. And one other thing, the ice rink now has ice and people are skating on it. There are open skate times and suggest that people get out there and take advantage of that. So, Bill.
Let me just say one other thing. Tonight at the 1912, they're having a sing-along with the Blues Choir.
Fun.
And so it started at 7:30 and it should last for an hour. So after this, stop by the 1912 building and sing some carols. That's it.
Just a reminder, council committee meetings next week have been canceled during the holidays. Next meeting of the council will have the organizational workshop at 5 p.m. on January 3rd in this room. And then the council meeting will start at 7 o'clock. And that's all I had for you this evening.
And that's it. Do I hear a motion to adjourn for the
So
year?
moved.
That was gleeful.
That
And
was-
seconded.
that was-
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
See you next.